Hey guys, I'm Adrian with the Upholstery Studio, and in this video I'm going to be going over 10 must-have upholstery tools for beginners. And really for everybody, because these tools I use the most, more than anything, on almost every single job I do. But before we get into it, I actually got a question from one of you guys in my last video asking about the exact type of thread and needles I use and what types of jobs I use them for. I use the same thread and needle for every single job, whether it be boat covers, upholstery, or leather stuff. The thread I use is going to be SolarFix 2000, primarily black and white. I have no other reason to use any other colors, and I haven't really. They do make other colors, but I've gotten away with just using black and white just fine. And the needles I use are going to be a simple 22 gauge diamond point needle. Those have done just fine. They penetrate the material perfectly and leave a very clean stitch hole. They've done me really well over the years, and I'm sure they will do you just fine too. So I hope that answered your question, and let's get into it. Tool number one is going to be a razor blade knife. For obvious reasons, you're doing upholstery, patterning, you're going to be cutting God knows what. But specifically this razor blade knife, two things about it I really like. First of all, it has an interchangeable razor blade, and you can swap it out at a moment's notice if it gets dull. You can get like a really big pack of like 500 at Lowe's, and you can have a razor sharp edge in like half a second. So there's no sharpening it, which is super awesome. But what I most love about this, it is super thin and low profile, and it is not bulky in your pockets, because I'm huge on like not having a bunch of crap in my pockets. The only thing about it, it's so low profile, sometimes it's a little hard to find if you misplace it. Like my current one, I actually need to order another one. I haven't been able to find it in a few days, but take my word for it, I usually have one on me, and I use them almost every day. Tool number two is going to be a 1/2 inch stick. I use this pretty much anytime I'm drawing out a pattern. In my last video, I mentioned how I don't ever draw full lines, I just draw dotted lines to help me draw out the pattern faster, but I still have to draw my seam allowance, and having that 1/2 inch stick just makes it super easy. Just line it up with your line, just trace a 1/2 inch stick, boom, done. You can get them at Lowe's, they're like a few bucks I think. They have aluminum yardstick size. They're super convenient, and I use them almost every time I draw out my patterns. Tool number three is going to be a tool I use every single time I do an upholstery project, especially if it has a lot of foam, and especially if that foam is used and old. That is going to be a steamer. Now, I just recently upgraded to this one. It has a little bit more of a capacity. It's super easy to use. I have everything here in my hand. Unlike those super big clunky steamers that take like 10 minutes to heat up, this one heats up nice and fast, super easy to use. Two reasons I always use a steamer on an upholstery project. Number one, it does a great job at re-expanding the foam if it's been compressed over time. So I will always touch any pre-existing foam with some steam, and you'll be surprised at how much that foam will expand. I've seen over an inch before. The second reason I always use a steamer is if I actually have to replace the foam, if the foam is just beyond usable and I have to get rid of it, instead of scraping the foam off of the board, use the steam. It helps get that glue separated nice, and you can just peel off the foam as if it wasn't even glued on. Also, another reason it's pretty good if you're working with leather, and let's say you're making a real leather like car seat or something, you can use the steam to help kind of work out some wrinkles and get it to fit a little bit better. Definitely one of my most used tools. Tool number four is going to be a staple remover. Not just any staple remover, it is going to be this one right here. This is an Osborne staple remover. You can find these on Amazon. This one, if I can zoom in, let's see, focus. This one specifically, it has this design fork. It makes it super easy to pull out staples, and it gives me a ton of leverage, and I'm able to just rip through those staples, especially when you get like a good rhythm. While yes, this staple remover is extremely good at removing staples, it is also extremely good at stabbing, for some reason, the center of my palm only.
Ow! Fuck me, dude! Ah! God, I just stabbed the shit out of my palm. You can't see it. I look like a wuss. Damn.
So be wary when using this. It doesn't care if it's a staple or a hand, but this is by far my favorite one to use. And for obvious reasons, tool number 5, that is going to be a staple gun. Naturally, a staple gun is going to make the list because I wouldn't be able to do half of the upholstery that I wanted to do without it. And the specific staple gun I use is going to be this one right here. This is a air locker. Now, unfortunately, I have tried my hardest to find this specific one online somewhere for you guys to order if you do want it, but I cannot find it online. As vast as the internet is, this does not exist for some reason. The only reason I have one in my hands right now is because there's a store here locally that carries these. I don't know how they get them. I'm going to do my best to find one as close to this as I can and link it down in the description. But there are also some different ones on Amazon that look identical to this. So I will also link that down there. They do have other air locker brands. Here are the details of this. Little 22 gauge, 3/8 inch crown. That's the size of the staples I use for everything, but I will do my best to link all these down in the description. Love this thing. It's great. Also, it does a pretty good job of shooting these across the room. Super fun. I like to shoot them in the trash can. It's a blast. For tool number 6, that is going to be an air compressor. Now, obviously, you're going to need an air compressor to use the staple gun I just showed you, but the air compressor is not only used for that staple gun. You can use these actually for many reasons, and to be honest, outside of upholstery, it's convenient to have one anyways because you can do like fill your tires up and other stuff. But what I primarily use my air compressor for is obviously the staple gun, but I use that little air squirt attachment thing because that is super convenient to clean off your table and around your sewing machine. Because picture this. You have a long week or 2 weeks of working and you didn't really clean up your shop that well and you got threads everywhere and you already know it's gonna be a hassle to sweep it up. Get that little air squirter nozzle thing and just spray around your machine. Kind of use it like a little blower, I guess. It cleans up messes super well. Clears off the table of like sand and stuff so you're not scratching any like material. It is super convenient. I love my air compressor. One of the best purchases I have made. And for tool number 7, that is going to be a pair of scissors. Adrian, that is the lowest hanging fruit you could say. Obviously, you need a pair of scissors to do upholstery. Yes, you do. I agree with you, but you don't just need any pair. These pair Kai scissors, they have a few different kinds, but this Kai brand, I have never held a more buttery smooth pair of scissors. These cut especially leather super well. I love these. I mean, that's really all there is to say. Just get a super nice pair of scissors that cut extremely well, which would definitely be these pair, but be careful. I'm not proud to admit this, but there have been more than once I've tried to clean these scissors because I was cutting through glue and stuff, got these a little bit gunked up, so I was using some denatured alcohol to clean off the blades, and they sliced right through the rag I was using, and for a solid 3 seconds I was just scrubbing my bare fingers on the blade and sliced through all 4 of them. Don't do that. Don't be dumb like me, because these are like really sharp. So be careful. Those are the best. I love them. I use them constantly. To be honest, I don't think I'll ever use any other pair of scissors. Enough of that though. Let's move on to the next tool. Tool number 8, that is going to be a hot knife. Now, I genuinely use the hot knife all the time. Honest, top 3 most used tools I use like ever. Mainly because a hot knife, you need this to cut Sunbrella, and I primarily use Sunbrella for like any boat covers or like covers, awnings, whatever. I use Sunbrella a lot. You can really only cut it with a hot knife, otherwise it'll fray up. But not only cutting Sunbrella, I always keep this by my machine. I actually have a screw screwed into the side of my table I hang it on so it stays right by my side. And I use this to just burn the ends of any like nylon rope or webbing or straps, whatever. I genuinely couldn't do what I do without having one of these. They are honestly a must-have, which is like, I guess the whole reason it's on this list. That's like in the name of the title, duh. For tool number 9, we got thread snips. Now, there's a bunch of different kinds. I use this right here. I love these things. They're nice and small. They don't take up a whole lot of real estate on my machine, keeping it cluttered. They stay out of the way. They have this cool little ring. You hook your ring finger on it, and they can hook on your hand. Super easy to use. They never leave my machine. I absolutely love these things. That's pretty much all it is to say. And these are just a really nice quality of life thing to have, so you don't have to constantly move your scissors back and forth, because trust me, if you're anything like me, you will lose your scissors. That never happens because I just keep these by my machine. I love them. And for tool number 10, that is going to be a sewing machine. Now, the sewing machine is by far my number one most used tool, and it is definitely the most expensive thing I have in my garage. I actually think it's the most expensive thing I have in my house, now that I think about it. And if you don't want to spend a crap ton of money on a machine like I did, because mine was $2,000, and it has absolutely made that money back and then some. So it is a worthy investment. You don't have to spend that much on a machine though. I see deals all the time on Marketplace for used Jukis, used consoles and singers and other various industrial sewing machines. There's a good deal out there. You don't have to break the bank to get one of these machines. Just make sure you do your due diligence and do your research on which machine is right for you. Now, I use my machine all the time. That doesn't mean you necessarily need a sewing machine to get started with upholstery. It made the list because this is my most used tool I constantly use, and on average, it is the most used tool across the board for upholstery. But there are many types of upholstery projects you can do that don't require any sewing. Use a few videos ago, I redid my dining table chairs. That didn't require any sewing. All I had was just a leather hide, my air compressor, and a staple gun. That's it. And I've seen plenty of other types of projects on YouTube that don't require any sewing. I've seen couches, wingback chairs, you name it. There's plenty of projects you can do and start diving into upholstery without having to break the bank and buy an industrial sewing machine. So if there is one tool you get out of this list, I would recommend you get a good air compressor and a staple gun. And I'm going to link all of this stuff in the description below. So go check that out if you're curious, scour through. That's pretty much gonna wrap things up for this video. These were my 10 most used tools and, in my opinion, must-haves for beginners. I hope you got a little bit of value out of this. And if there's any other types of videos you would like to see in the future, please leave them down in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one.